Everybody, welcome back to Beans No Ball. The playoffs are finally here. We're gonna hit you with the wild card preview. Now, obviously, before we really get into it, obviously, gotta, once again, just crazy stuff happening in our society, specifically here in Los Angeles. Prayers go out to anyone suffering through the wildfires. But yeah, obviously, a lot of the stuff that get into, specifically with our community, with the Rams game, that we'll get into once we close this one out. But let's get started with a wild card preview, and we'll finish this off giving you guys our full bracket. So, Christian, I guess you can start us off with our first wild card game.
Yeah, so the Chargers, Houston. This is gonna be the first wild card game on Saturday. Obviously we gotta love the Saturday game there too. So honestly, people think, I think that the Chargers, they're pretty much the favorites here, just because we see how the decline. Not I want to say decline for Houston, but just how inconsistent they've been on both sides of the ball. Maybe their defense can get them the upright this year, but we've seen the slump with CJ there too. But I still think it's gonna be a pretty close game there. But again, I'm still going to think it's the defense because with Herbert, 504 total pass attempts, only 3 interceptions there. As for the Texans, I believe here, if my stats are correct, 19 interceptions. They're second in the league. So really, you can say what you want. Could be the battle of, whose offense is going to get going. It's really going to be the battle between Herbert and how he's going to withstand this defense too. I'm going to expect Derek Stingley Jr. to be on Ladd McConkey, which is the leading receiver for this Chargers team, sensational rookie. I'm going to expect Derek Stingley to be on him, be trailing him for a majority of this game there too. And one thing about the Chargers it's their defense. Sure, these teams, they can find a way around this defense, but this defense has been putting up really great numbers all season long. We can really get into Houston's offense, who you get into Houston's offense really quick. CJ Stroud, we see the shitter he has. Look what Baltimore did to him not that long ago during the Christmas game there too. So we're going to be a battle between Stingley and those receiving core, and then Quentin Johnson as well. If Quentin Jobston doesn't come, to haunt them back, those two guys are going to be a big factor to this Los Angeles Chargers team. And, with me, I got to go with the Chargers on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. Obviously, I'm not. I mean, kind of the same thing we were talking about, just defensively. I mean, just the trajectory that both of these teams are going, specifically, I could go verbatim from what you say. We kind of have a specifically going the same way. I mean, I would call this maybe a two-possession game. Texans could make this close, but, that defense is really going to keep the momentum for the Chargers. Now, Steelers-Ravens. Now, obviously, the Steelers, just the way they finished the season, it really puts a damper on that phenomenal start that they had. And I mean, first and foremost, last year we had the Peacock game. This year, now we got the Prime Video game. They're really going heavy on streaming. It's just unfortunate that, a lot of people, you just got to pay a lot more to watch football, specifically in the playoffs now. It used to be so easy to watch before. But, that's its own thing that you could talk about for another time. But, I mean, let's just talk about this. Crazy for me, a 9.5 point line for an NFC North game in the playoffs. I mean, let's be honest, anyone who likes betting on the spreads, you gotta take the Steelers to cover this one. I mean, in an AFC North game, this is gonna be tough and gritty, and I know the Steelers have been struggling, but I could definitely expect the defense to make it a game. I think Russ is definitely gonna have a bounce back, and despite the way they finished the season, they're gonna have a fight in this game. Now, the biggest point is you got the MVP front runner, at least in a lot of people's eyes, in Lamar Jackson, and he's going to have a lot to say in this game. Derrick Henry, obviously, I expect him to run well, despite that stellar Steelers defense. And, despite, TJ Watt, he has been struggling with that injury since the tail end of the season, but don't think that's going to have too much of an issue. I think this is going to be a lot more low scoring than a lot of people think. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I'd take the Ravens in a 21-17 type score.
Yeah. Gonna another agreement. I'm gonna go with the Ravens on this one. I don't think it's gonna be a huge blood there. It's still a division battle in the playoffs, so I'm really gonna expect both battles. I mean, two great defenses. You can even say two great offenses, but with the Steelers, only thing we're going there, like we said, the only thing about them is George Pickens, right? If George Pickens can't get going, you really can't do this. And come playoff time, that connection with him and Russ, it's gonna have to connect whatsoever. But I know with that defense, with all those weapons Baltimore has, they're going to do all their best to stop Pickens. And I believe Pickens, if he's not getting going this game, it's pretty much wraps for this season. And we've seen that this whole season whenever Pickens gets locked up. Can't even rely on Najee for the most part. Sure, he picks up a little bit there, but if the run game even not getting going with Najee, which they've been trying to, Russ is going to have another struggling game. The defense is not going to be able to pick up with them. So, obviously, Baltimore, still a close game there, too. Now, moving on with Buffalo and Denver. Now, this is another storyline game. No one begins. Von Miller, you win Super Bowl 50 with the Broncos. Now you're going to be traveling to Buffalo, currently with the Bills to face your former team. Now, obviously, there's a lot of great things coming to this. Bo Nix, again, another rookie sensation. I've specifically had my own take on him in the offseason, but now here, looking into it, he's been phenomenal coming into this season. There, obviously, you could put up a debate for him for Rookie of the Year, but obviously Jaden Daniels is getting a little bit more of the favorite there, which it makes sense there too. But I believe it's really going to be the tale of the defenses when it comes to this, because we see with Buffalo with their defense, we saw what happened with them. We saw what happened with them against the Lions. The offense really put up the most part, but their defense was struggling. But thankfully, the defense was able to pick it up there. When we're looking at this, it's Denver's defense that's gonna get the stop to try and stop Josh Allen and all the weapons around there. Pat Surtain, he's currently the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. You're going to expect it to show pretty much everyone this receiving end. He's been locking up probably the best receivers in the league there. It's going to be a tell of which receiver's not going to get going. And for Buffalo, they're going to have to punch in the mouth to that Denver defense really early on there. Because with Josh Allen, sure, he can carry this Buffalo Bills team. He can carry them on the back in the pass game, in the run game. But it's still going to be a tough battle. And if Bo Nix, he finds the flaws in those defenses. We see what he's been able to do. It's going to be a very close battle. I really, really want to say a shootout. I really do. But I think from the trajectory of both these defenses, whichever one gets going, it's going to be a really tight matchup. But with prediction's sake, I got to rock with Buffalo on this one. But again, it's really hard to go against Denver now in the playoffs because, hey, if Bo Nix gets this one, he'd be the next person drafted by the Broncos to win a playoff game. Last person, Tim Tebow. So obviously history could be made with this game with the Denver Broncos, but I can't bet against the Bills just the way they're looking.
Yeah, gonna agree once again. We'll get into the ones that we're disagreeing in just a bit, but yeah, I mean, same thing with me. I mean, my main thing, defensively for the Broncos, I mean, you probably expect a lot of zone early on, and they're gonna end up getting burnt little by little. I expect Surtain to start just trailing whoever becomes that main receiver, whether it be Shakir Hollins or whoever. Same with like what we always talk about with the Packers. The Bills really have that wide receiver by committee, and I mean it's been working. That's why Josh Allen, in our opinion, is the MVP front runner. And like I really gotta say, I'm expecting this to be like a 2 touchdown game. I mean, as much as I got my love for Bo Nix, I just don't think he's gonna find the pockets in the Bills defense. As much as the Bills can be susceptible to big plays and big scoring games, we saw the Rams game and the Lions game, but we saw why they almost pulled out the Rams game and why they did pull out that shootout against the Lions. I really got to say the Bills here now. Move to the NFC side. Packers, Eagles, our first 2-7 seed. We saw the last time the Packers came in as the 7, obviously pulling out against your Cowboys. This time, it's definitely going to be a lot harder. Now, obviously, Jalen Hurts coming out of concussion protocol. We know
he did practice. He did practice.
Was in practice, and already out of protocol, and we'll see if that's going to affect him, if there's still any lingering issue with that. I honestly wouldn't expect there to be much. I mean, we saw this matchup week 1 in Brazil. Now, a lot of people had their piece about the field conditions over there. Now you get it out in Lincoln Financial, and I guess people say, oh, they're going to play in real field, in real grass this time, see what happens. Let's also not forget, at the end of that game, there was no Jordan Love. We had to throw in Malik Willis, as that was when Jordan Love sustained that knee injury that kept him out for a couple weeks. Now, honestly, a lot of people think this is probably a close game. I think the Eagles pull away late and end up getting a 10-point type win. I think the return of Jalen Hurts is really going to really help this team. I think Saquon Barkley once again goes crazy on the Packers defense.
Yeah, again, another agreement. This is our last agreement until we get into the next 2 games there. But yeah, I just see Philly, how stacked their team is. I mean, we see with McKee and Kenny Pickett. We see what they were able to do in the offense with the weapons with Saquon, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and just that defense going on there too. And we know with the Green Bay Packers, we see against the top teams in the league, they haven't been doing so well at all whatsoever. Jordan Love just not really able to put up the numbers and show up there too. Almost did against Detroit, but almost. We still know didn't come out there too, but I still got Philly going in another monster Saquon game. Now, finally moving on with our 2 disagreements on this one, Washington and Tampa Bay. There's honestly, it's gonna be a great game. Honestly, this one is probably gonna be the closest one we've had so far there too. And really, I'm gonna go with Baker and this Buccaneers team there too. But again, it's really hard to bet against Jaden Daniels there. But specifically with this Bucs team, Baker Mayfield, I'm gonna say it's gonna rely on him because we've seen Baker. He could sell the games all the time. We saw with the Cowboys game, right? The defense was getting to him, and that's what happened when Baker under the pressure. He kind of, not really good under the pressure, and we saw that against the Cowboys game. Michael Parsons and everyone on the D-line, they were getting to him, and then pretty much the choke job that happened from there too. With Washington's defense, they've been pretty overrated for the past couple of years, but this defense now coming into this playoffs, it's been looking a little bit better there. But again, we've seen in the early season, Jaden Daniels struggles against team above 500, was able to pull up the comeback win against Philly with the backup QB there too, but they were still able to put up 30 plus without Jalen Hurts there. Now this game, you're going against a good Tampa Bay team. You just got to hope their defense, and we saw Tampa's defense has been very inconsistent, and we've been able to see that. Baker Mayfield, he's been leading comebacks there because their defense wasn't able to hold their own. It's really going to be a tell which offense is going to get going first. You got weapon doubles. You got Baker to Mike Evans, then you got Jaden Daniels to Scary Terry, and then you got the other guys who, put up a big number. I mean, the fossil Zach Ertz has been coming up as a big weapon for Jaden Daniels as well. But I'm really rooting for Baker here. I obviously got to vote against, have to vote for this one time. I have to vote against the NFC East because, rival is there. But I'm going to look for a really huge connection game between Baker and Mike Evans. And if Bucky Irvin gets going again in the run game, it's gonna be wraps for Washington. And I think this is where the pressure is really going to build up against Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I think you see two defenses that, they have high potential, but they've also been struggling recently. And you see the Bucks defense, they go up, they go down, and recently they've been playing kind of good. So in my opinion, this is where they're gonna give up a big game, and if Baker can keep up with it, so be it. This is definitely one of those games that I say has shootout potential, just because they have high powered offenses and defense is susceptible. You talk about Bucky Irving, obviously the great season he's had. We also look at Brian Robinson Jr. and the possibility that he could do to tear up this Bucks D line. Now, same thing with I think we had a game like this last season. I think the Browns and the Texans. Yeah. It was just the same way. You look at them both ways. Who's gonna win this one? It goes the same with me. I'm okay with each other to win. I'm honestly still on the fence who wins, but I think I got to give the edge to Jaden Daniels. It's it's hard to see. Postseason. It's a different animal, but I think he's built for it. As much as early on I wasn't really a high believer in him. Obviously he's changed my mind on him, and I really think the weapons that he has offensively, as much as I love Baker and I love what the Bucks have done offensively, I think the Commanders are going to end up pulling this one out. Probably at the end, kind of a shootout and a close game in the end. But let's go Monday night, and obviously, start off the important part, obviously with everything going on out here in LA. Unfortunately, this game had to be moved to State Farm Stadium. I mean, I don't love it, but safety first, player safety, fan safety, of course. And the Rams are being robbed of real home field advantage. Now, of course, it's still, closer home than Minnesota, so whatever. But we get a road home game, whatever you call it. Now, this is another matchup that we've seen in this season. Week 8, obviously, I was in attendance for this Thursday nighter against the Vikings. And, I mean, hey, a great game overall that, I guess, in my opinion, we had exposed them or whatever. And that was the last loss they had until that stinker against the Lions last week. So, I mean, honestly, my main thing going into this one, Sam Darnold in the playoffs. Now, same thing I said with Jaden Daniels. Playoffs a different animal. I think it can get to him. I really do think, especially with the Rams defense, that of course, say you could say the same thing about them with all the young guys. The big moment can get to them, but they played great in big moments, and I think they could really give him some struggles. And you see what happens when Sam Darnold is under pressure. Specifically last week against the Lions, he really struggles. He also struggles against man coverage, and that's something that Chris Shula and Sean McVay have really shown that they can do. We saw that against Brock Purdy just a couple weeks ago. I think defensively we could really hold Sam Darnold in and playoff Matt Stafford, playoff Puka Nacua, and if we can find Prime Cup back, playoff Cooper Kupp is definitely something that I can really expect to really flourish. And at the end of the day, if it all goes well, I definitely see the Rams pulling this one out. Is there going to be a little bias in me for a 10-win 4 seed to beat a 14-win wildcard team? Maybe, but let's not forget what happened the last time the Rams were a 4 seed, ended up taking it all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, honestly, this game was... I had to think a little through of this one, but, again, final disagreement, like I mentioned. I do think that Minnesota is going to get their get back from that Week 8 game. I feel it's going to be really their defense. I know Brian Flores, he's been the main guy for this Vikings team, has been succeeding. We saw that defense against the Lions, it did what they could, but obviously, like you mentioned, Darnold in the playoffs there too. I think this is going to be the bounce back for game for them against the Rams. They're sure you could say not necessarily home field advantage for them, but a little closer. Let's just hope Minnesota, the fans don't fill up that whole stadium, which I'm going to assume there too. But I think now this playoffs team, like you said, I know Stafford, he has the more experience there, but Jay Jettis and Darnold, if that connection gets going extremely early, if that O-line can hold up what they've been doing for the most part of this season there, I'm not going to expect a blowout. It's going to be a close game. I do think it's going to be an offensive game on which offense is really going to get going more too. But I still think Brian Flores and what he's been doing with that defense is going to get the upper edge here over this Rams team.
Yeah, so obviously a great 4-5 matchup that we'll get on Monday night. Unfortunately, because of the movement, I had to give up my tickets, of course. But now obviously the way we do these, wild card, finish off those wild card games. Now we'll give you our full bracket. Now, Christian, I'll let you throw in the rest of your bracket.
Yep. So obviously after wild card weekend, starting with the AFC. Next bracket for the divisional: Chiefs, Chargers, Bills, Ravens. I was going for the championship. I'm gonna get the Chiefs, the Bills, and obviously they've been really high on the Bills this season there, so I'm gonna have them going to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen leading this team. As for the NFC, after this, Lions, Vikings gonna get another spin back of the NFC North again there too. But like I said, I gotta go with the Lions on this one once again. They're just too much of a powerhouse. Moving in with the Bucks and the Eagles. Look, I love Baker. They were able to beat Philly last season there. But this is a completely different Eagles team with Jalen Hurts back there. The web is just stacked. They obviously learned from that last game in the wild card. I have to sadly go with the Eagles on this one as much as it hurts me and going against Baker. And now moving in with the championship with the Lions and the Eagles. I think this was a no-brainer once again. The Lions, I think they're going to get the upbridge on the Eagles there once again. No more explain on that one. Just how stacked their team is and the way the whole coaching staff. So we're going to get a Bills-Lions Super Bowl. And the winner, I think this is going to be a tough one, but I got to stick with my guy Josh Allen. The Bills finally going to get the first Super Bowl in history. I think this is going to be the one to get. Hopefully this bracket pays off and the delusion doesn't kick in.
Yeah, obviously you had no opportunity to get the delusion to kick in without your Cowboys, but now I got my team in here, and I'm gonna be fair and honest. I'm not gonna let my delusion get in here too much. Now, obviously, start with the AFC, of course. Our AFC sides are the same: Chargers, Chiefs, Ravens, Bills. Now, I got the same as you. I got the Chiefs and Bills moving on. Bills, Chiefs, AFC Championship, and just like you, I got the Bills going to the Super Bowl. I think this is absolutely Josh Allen's year, going to Arrowhead and finally getting it done. Now, on the NFC side, that's where I got just a little different than you. Commanders, Lions, and Rams, Eagles. Now, same thing. And I think this is where in the moment gets a little too much for Jaden Daniels going up against an absolute gauntlet in the Lions. I'll have Lions in the NFC Championship. And my Rams going against the Eagles. We got mollywopped in SoFi Stadium against these Eagles. I mean, going to Lincoln Financial, I can't really expect any better. I'll have Jalen Hurts go back to the NFC Championship. And here's my surprise for this one. I'll have the Eagles take down the Lions in the NFC Championship, finally make it back to the Super Bowl. But just like you, I'm going to have Josh Allen get his first ring. I think this is going to be a Super Bowl for the ages with two great offenses, two great defenses. And I mean, like they in agreement, at least to end the season. I mean, Josh Allen, I think, we're in definite agreement. He's our MVP, and he's going to be our Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, wow. I didn't expect to get a decently similar bracket. Well, at least on the AFC side, we got it the same. But the NFC, obviously, we're going to expect that disagreement there. But one of these are going to have to pay off. If not, both of these are going to be down in the shitter in the dumpster fire. We're just going to have to wait to see after wildcard weekend, see how messed up our bracket's going to be.
I hope it just as long as I get that Monday night disagreement, that's all I'll hope for. But I mean, we'll see how all this gets done in just a couple of days. Hopefully, Tuesday morning we'll have this out for you. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you like and subscribe, and come right back to see how these picks are going after the wild card recap.